Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. So this image, I'm going to hazard, is potentially another stock photo, unless you actually own that. Okay, so it's basically a photo shot down, looking down on a beautiful like wood table where the wood is like 2x4s or whatever, that's been beautifully stained. Kind of gives this rustic kind of feeling. On the right hand side of the image is an old Corona manual typewriter that's been weathered, and it's so the tone of the color is quite dark and ashy and rich and beautiful browns, and yeah, it's a nice sort of a rustic photo. And on the left, again, there's a word dominating the image, which is storytelling. Lilian Sue, take it away.
Storytelling is another huge part of what it is that I do, both personally and professionally. Growing up, I actually had a dream to make a living as a novelist.
Okay.
And it's actually something that I've come back around to just within the last year. I was dissuaded. This was the early 2000s, before self-publishing was big. And I was told by family, it's like, you're never going to eat if that's your career path. So in university, and this is the genesis for why I started my own business, I got into communications and marketing, and I said, you know what? As much as I love storytelling, so how about I help people learn how to share theirs? And that became kind of the genesis for what I do now, in terms of all everything from when I was doing copywriting and the social media side of thing to doing the PR side, and really about encouraging people to learn how to share their stories the right way to get in front of the right audiences. Funny thing though, going back a little bit to that mindset piece, I tell people that I talk to socially and clients as well all the time that, I used to be exactly where they were at. Mm-hmm. I spent years just kind of relying on my testimonials and showing the results that I got clients. And I said, hey, that should be enough. That should tell people, I'm able to get them the results and help them grow their brands the way they want to.
Right. Here's
the problem. What it didn't tell people was, who am I?
Okay.
What am I about, right?
Right.
What can they expect from working with me in terms of the kind of person that I am?
So you had this epiphany that what's missing is your story within the bigger context, as a way to kind of attract people to your service, to your work, to your ability. Mm-hmm. What is that key insight that people aren't getting to unlock their own success within storytelling?
I think it's one of those things where, again, it comes back to mindset about fear. Fear is a big one, in that when you choose to get personal with people, because even though you're talking about business, a lot of it is personal.
Sure.
Because you're talking about why you got started, what inspires you, what keeps you going.
Yep.
And also sharing bits and pieces with your audience about the things that resonate with you, things that mean a lot to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of that comes from a fear of rejection. That's a really, really big one. And a fear of judgment is also a really big one, where it's you fear that putting yourself out there means you're making yourself vulnerable,
right?
Which makes yourself vulnerable to criticism, rejection, judgment, all this negativity. And like I said before, as human beings, we all have this really bad habit of catastrophizing things that 9 times out of 10 never happen.
Yeah. So on the one hand, what you're doing is you're explaining to me the utility and the importance of storytelling and of getting personal. So I'm going to turn that lens back on you and say, okay, so tell me the story. how did this epiphany? Usually, epiphanies come from growth that is potentially painful. So, how would you show and not tell?
Well, I mean, I came to this because I was burnt out. I was attracting the wrong people, both professionally and personally.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to the point where it's just like, you know what? Like, there has to be a better way of living my life.
Okay.
The coping mechanisms that I had up until that point, which were primarily the counseling, primarily leaning on family and friends that I have, I'm like, this is not helping me address the root issue of why I'm having so much difficulty,
Mm.
why I'm getting burnt out, why I'm not happy to work, like wake up in the mornings, why, I don't feel like I have anything to look forward to.
Mm.
I have to fix this before it's too late, and I lose the ability or the willingness to want to do anything.
Right, right,
That
right.
that was kind of my driving force for that.
Sure.
And when I sought out help working again with my mindset coach, it really came down to I came to the realization of, as a person, in sharing my story and in doing so, my ultimate goal is to build relationships,
Sure.
build positive relationships. And in order to do that, it is in fact a give and take.
Mm-hmm.
If you want someone to give something to you, then you have to be willing to show up and tell them something about yourself that's going to be about putting yourself out there. So I've been honest about it. I've told them about, I know a lot of you guys you struggle with stress, depression, and anxiety. Some people have chronic illnesses while running your business. I'm like, hey, I'm the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I also have a chronic illness. I also run a business. This is how I've dealt with it. And I wanted to be transparent with you because that is how we build connections. That's how we get to know each other.
So, would you say that part of the fuel, like, where does the pandemic enter in that picture?
Well, just before it, I had a full time in house opportunity not work out,
Mm.
and it didn't work out because there was a lot of miscommunication surrounding their needs, and it turned out I was hired for something that their CMO, who was hired later, actually didn't think they needed.
Ah, okay, okay. Yeah, it happens. I mean, shit happens.
Right.
It's happened to me. It's also
Mm-hmm.
it's baked into the nature of what we do because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm back in Canada from Hong
Yeah.
Kong after basically going through the very same tensions, frustrations, whatever you want to call it, failures. But yeah, I hear you. I hear you for sure.
Yeah, so I went through that and I said, you know what? I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to reevaluate what it is that I actually really want to do
Mm.
and how I can continue to make a positive impact with people, because ultimately that's how I want to show value. That's how I want my relationships with them to be valued. And I don't want to always have to be justifying why it is that I do what I do.
Mm.
And I came to that realization because it's like so much of the other side of the career path when you're looking for jobs and everything, so much of it is surface level. So much of it is, do you fit the set of parameters someone else has decided, right?
Tick the boxes for
Right,
sure.
right, right. And because of that, so much of that is I'm not actually really getting to know people
Mm-hmm.
and understand them and form that connection before getting a job. So if that's what I want, then the best way for me to do that is to really come out and be transparent, be vulnerable with my audience, and continue to add value and show them that I'm not, at the end of the day, like, yes, I would love for us to work together, but I don't feel like what I'm selling you is just simply a service.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What I want is for us to build that relationship and to be there for each other, even as friends. even without that, and over the course of the pandemic, what's happened is I've been able to do that with folks that are all over the world much more readily, because so many of them are reaching out similarly and wanting to make those connections as well, because in-person connections have drifted, other people have moved. Unfortunately, there's been folks that have lost people as well. So that's kind of deepened the connection in that way. And also, we've been able to sit down and have serious conversations about society and the world at large. Recognizing representation in media is a big conversation I have all the time. Talking about police, particularly in the States, police brutality, other issues surrounding human rights. And it's been great to kind of open up my own world on a personal level, even though my original intention might have been to meet these folks professionally. It's been really good to open my world on a personal level and actually learn more new perspectives.
Right. Learn more new perspectives. Well, I think that is the perfect way to move to the next image. Do you agree? Like, should we use that as the next, as the segue?
Sure, yeah.
Lilian Sue's in the house. I love it. So, is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So, if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.